Welcome back, everybody, to the Gaming Station, episode 4. I am back again with Mr. Patman and Mr. Patty. Mr. Patman, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Glad to be back once again.
Mr. Patty, what about you?
Well, it's been a minute since I wasn't here for the last episode, but I've watched it and I'm ready to go.
Missed you. It was a very long podcast. We talked about a lot. Are you guys ready to get into topics? What do we got today, Mr. Patman?
First things first, we wanted to check in with Patty and see how his experience with Minecraft Dungeons has been.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, personally, I played it only a little bit. I only played about 2, 3 dungeons. I played in the mines and in the swamp, and I did like the game. I did like it. It gave me a lot of Diablo vibes to it, and I feel like comparing it to Diablo will then worsen my view on the game. So I tried to just think of it as just it being Minecraft Dungeons, and as a game, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Basically, I don't like comparing it either because comparing those as two, they're pretty much two completely different games. Kind of the same concept with the whole dungeon crawler thing, but Minecraft has the Minecraft lore and the Minecraft story, which I really enjoy. What about you, Patman? What do you think about that?
Well, honestly, I agree. You shouldn't compare the two. Sure, there are definitely some connections you can make between the two, but otherwise, you can't really look at what is different about it. I think that if you compare it to Diablo 4, you're not getting the full experience of Minecraft Dungeons Diablo 3. Because, of course, Diablo is a lead franchise in the dungeon crawling genre. So, of course, they're going to take elements from the best game to incorporate into their own game because it wouldn't be a smart business plan if they didn't do that. But it's still more simplistic. There's no leveling system. You can put on gear whenever you want. There's no character classes. It definitely has its own unique spin, and I feel like if you over compare, it draws away from that, and you only see it as a clone, so to speak, and not as a standalone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, how far into the game did you get, Pat?
I only played, I believe, 3 dungeons until I played the mines twice. I played it once on like just an easy mode, and then I played it another time on hard. I wanted to understand the difference in difficulty, and then I played the swamps just because I wanted to see another map as well and see the different graphic design they had. And I did like it. I liked the fact that when I went into a different one, the enemies had their different like attack patterns. I had to like play it differently. So it was definitely it was a fun game. It kept me on my toes. I had to try, especially in hard. In the hard mode, I was sweating getting through that dungeon.
I've definitely had some difficulty with the game on harder difficulties. It definitely does get harder. Like, especially Clarity and I, my girlfriend, we didn't even beat the game because it was so hard. The last level gave us such a run for our money, and I've been gaming for a long time, and it's still difficult.
That definitely says something about the game.
Absolutely. They did a good job with the difficulty scale. It's not impossible, but they make you work for it, and it's a good balance.
Mortal Issues, I think, is what they were talking about making Diablo 4.
I don't know what the name is going to be. I haven't read anything about that. I've seen some gameplay, and it's definitely a darker themed Diablo. They're going back to their roots, but I haven't read anything about the title.
I remember it had to do with vampires. That's kind of the angle they're taking in the next game.
That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna love it no matter what. I'm a big Diablo.
Amen.
Yeah, I've been a fan of the franchise for a long time. I definitely am going to enjoy it.
I'm only excited for mainly how they're going to take it, because obviously whenever you're doing a series of a game, you always want to try and make it better from the game before, and I'm excited to see how they're going to try and take what they have from Diablo 3 and turn it into something more like just better in Diablo 4, either that being the graphics, the gameplay, like the way in which you have to fight, possibly like different characters that you can play, different items.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Character classes is definitely something I'm excited for. Diablo does a really good job with character classes, so I can't wait to see what they'll do there.
What's your guys'
Chad?
favorite clashes to play on?
Well, as it stands, my favorite class in Diablo 3 has definitely been the Necromancer. I know it's the newest character class. Before that, I was definitely a Demon Hunter player, and I know Patty and I had talked about at work the other day Demon Hunter class as well.
Yeah, the Demon Hunter was definitely one of my favorites because I definitely liked once I got farther into the game and I started playing it, speed runs kind of became my addiction in Diablo 3, and playing Demon Hunter, it's kind of like the fastest way, just because you can jump around and shoot everything as you're just running past, and it just the clear was insane.
Oh, absolutely, and definitely like the clear was insane, and the crowd control. I loved multi-shot and the builds you could do around that, and I like
Yeah.
Demon Hunter for the speed. But if you haven't played Diablo in a while, Patty, you should check out the Necromancer because he actually is leading the leaderboards for speed runs, and I had lots of fun playing Necro.
Yeah, I went back to the game a little while ago with one of my friends who I used to grind with all the time, and he created a new class for Necromancer, and I remember watching him play, and that it kind of OP, not gonna lie.
Dude, it's super OP. No, it is
Yeah,
overpowered. They overdo it, but I like it. I don't care how overpowered it is.
it's not
The
the
builds
point.
are amazing. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
Diablo. If you're
Yeah.
OP, it's not. It's PVE. But yeah,
I some reason why I always like before Diablo 3, of course, I always played warrior, and I don't know why. I mean, I always pictured myself as the warrior.
like the barbarian, like the tank
Yeah.
class.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
Barbarian.
And those don't
Yeah,
really work that well in those kind of games, I found out.
Actually, you'd be surprised.
Well,
yeah.
they work as if you're in a team. Guys, I found like the necromancer or was it the wizard? One of the
Wizard.
Like I said, I definitely got into the grinding of that game, and that friend that I was telling you about a minute ago, he actually had a barbarian class too that was, if not stronger than mine, because just like if you build correctly in any game, like in a game like Diablo, where it's meant on like how you build affects how you play, um, just because you might think it's lacking, there's game mechanics that give you the advantage to take what might seem simplistic and turn it into something OP.
And
Like, no, go ahead. That's all I
and
wanted to say.
I was gonna add on that I also think that even if you do customize it to be any build, because a lot of them are versatile like that, you can still. I would say Barbarian is more fun in a group than
Hmm.
solo. I feel like Barbarian gets stale solo, whereas Necromancer and Wizard can be more fun solo. But in my opinion, dungeon crawlers are best played with other people, especially a game like Diablo, because then you get that group denser, harder mobs. It just feels better. The
yeah.
gameplay is solo. It feels grindy, and because the map is randomly generated, but it's all very the same, it can feel very drawn out and boring and grindy.
Yeah, I enjoyed it uh, by myself, but when I played by myself with a more magical creature, the other things because it was just so basic with the warrior.
Absolutely.
So yeah, of what I've read so far, technically there's just no current release date for Diablo 4 Immortal Issues. What do you guys think?
I haven't read anything about the release date too much or anything. All I've seen is like beta gameplay and things like that, short like teasers of what the game might look like graphically. I haven't seen a whole lot yet.
Yeah, I've only seen the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer. I've seen the trailer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I looked up in two different sources, and both sources were kind of basically countering each other. One said that it wouldn't come out this year. So one said they don't even look forward to it coming out in 2020 or 2021. That 2022 is most likely the time that it's going to be coming out. So
I would not anticipate a 2020 release.
Yeah,
I would
just
not
because of
anticipate
everything.
that soon. Blizzard tends to take their time with their games and how long they
That's
take to develop them.
that is
And
true.
yeah, and not to mention, like, if they blow it out of the park early and overhype the game, I feel like they're going to ruin their audience and their playership as for what little they have left after Diablo Immortal launching on mobile and people really hating that because it's a PC game at its core. I think a lot of people are like don't want to overhype it, so I think Blizzard's going to do like a less public release. I think there's going to be less info given up front, except little tidbits to kind of build hype without leaving too much room for disappointment.
So on new games, how about No Man's Sky? I know you brought that up last time, Patman,
Yeah,
about
so I'm down.
Xbox Game Pass, I believe.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass as of June. I know we're a little into June, but I moved last weekend, so my internet's going up tonight. My new internet, and I'm gonna download it and hopefully get into it sometime this week. So I'm
Awesome.
definitely excited for that.
And I believe Patty said that you were just playing it on PC, right?
Yes, I have. I've. It's been a while since I've played it, but I'm excited about the newest updates they came up with, which were the living ship, um, which is one thing that I'm excited to try and get into again. Start learning how to do that. I want to learn more about like what's up with the living ship. Like, does it do anything special in comparison to your regular spaceship? Is it bigger? Like, can you move around in it? Like the freighters that they have. I'm also excited because I've been looking into it a little bit more, and it seems like there might be an update coming where they actually add cities, and that is something I'm extremely excited for.
Would be really cool.
I heard you say something about cities. I know they have small like little camps or bases around. So cities, what do you mean? Like, are we talking about like humongous areas?
I didn't get huge into it. I just know that when it came to the cities, it was talking about like it would be a bigger area for do you remember the anomaly in No Man's Sky?
Yes.
The basically I know it's gonna go off the concept of the anomaly where it's a bigger area where there's actually more interaction. You could meet other players. Um, Group up, I guess. I don't know all the aspects that they're going to come up with, but I know that when it comes to like the cities, obviously it's just going to be a bigger area where you're able to do more, explore more, possibly missions, new missions as well. That'd be interesting if they could do something like that as well.
I never got too far into the game. Multiplayer itself was really cool. How it worked because I know you could eventually find more people in your area. Like so, have four friends, and then like you could have like up to 20 to 25 people that you could see in your area. Do you remember anything like that?
Mm, I remember they said something like that in the launch of the game originally, but then people saw that as a scam and it wasn't true, and they got a lot of bad press on it. I don't know if that's a thing now. I don't know if they fixed that.
Okay. Yeah, I know we were able to get quite a few, but it was mainly the main four, I guess, more than I was looking forward to being able to play like basically a MMO type game where you could see like 50 people. But I do see that there's an exo mech warrior.
Yeah, that I saw that too. That looks new as well.
I don't remember doing anything like that. I know you had your exo suit, but not like anything super crazy like that.
I cannot wait to play it though.
Yeah, I think with like we said last week, like with you liking those kind of games, especially now that it's not broken and meets pretty much all of the things that they said it was going to have. Finally,
Absolutely. Yeah, now that it doesn't it's not missing all the things that people were excited for to begin with. I'm definitely more excited because now I can really engage in the content that the game has to offer as a whole package.
CyberPunk 2077. Anticipation for that game is just crazy.
Why
Worries
does
you?
it worry you, Patty?
The overhype you were talking about, it actually worries me because with every game that comes out, either it gets hyped up, people don't know about it, and then it comes out, and then it just starts to get press. The press for the game is like over. I feel like it's going to overhype the game, and that when it comes out, people are going to expect so much out of it, and they're not going to get everything, and it's going to ruin the game in a way.
Yeah, kind of like we were talking about last week. Watch Dogs kind of had.
Yes.
Or No Man's Sky, as we were just talking about.
Well, I mean, at least No Man's Sky finally hit the mark. Watch Dogs kind of just fell off the mark.
Yeah, that is true.
It's important to look at the history of the game. Cyberpunk, I agree with Patty, don't overhype games, but at the same time, Cyberpunk is a RPG game coming from an RPG game company. CD Projekt is the developer behind them, and they made the Witcher series, which is well known for being a fantastic RPG. So and they're not veering from their genre. Games like Watch Dogs, Ubisoft made Watch Dogs, but they also made Assassin's Creed. Like they are not sticking to one genre and mastering that genre. Watch Dogs came from a company that made a different kind of game that was good. So they kind of went into a different kind of genre, and that didn't go very well. This isn't a new venture for CD Projekt. It's a new game, but it's coming from a company with a history of making good RPG games like The Witcher. So that's something I think is important to look at.
I kind of agree. The only problem is I've never played The Witcher. I do now own all 3 of them. I do plan on doing a series eventually.
I have played The Witcher 3, and it lives up to its name.
Agreed.
It definitely does. I played that one, and I didn't even play a ton of it, but it was so good. I only had to play like a half hour, and I was like, this game is already amazing.
I played
it 3 times.
Heard that The Witcher is going to make me hate Skyrim. That's pretty much
what you hate what?
Skyrim. Elder Scrolls Skyrim.
Yeah.
I can see why people would say that, but I don't personally agree. To me, they're definitely both like they're in the same ballpark of games, but they're also still very different. They're entirely different worlds. The gameplay is entirely different. The concept of being a Witcher versus being the Dragonborn. I see how people could make that comparison, but like I've played both, and I love them both individually.
Yeah.
They don't cross over for me.
I feel you. Yeah. Basically, I guess it's just the genre of game. The Witcher did it better, I guess. But I mean, Skyrim is like is a game that holds up 10 years later.
Yeah, I mean they both. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they both won Game of the Year. I know Skyrim did. I don't know if The Witcher 3 did.
It did.
It did. So they both won Game of the Year. Like in my opinion, they're both really great members of their genre. But because Cyberpunk is coming from the same developer, I mean, Watch Dogs came from Far Cry and For Honor and Assassin's Creed. Like those are all very different games coming from one publisher or one software developer. I feel like Cyberpunk having that advantage of like people who know what they're doing plays a role. Not to say that you should still super hype it, but I see why people are excited.
I guess one fail in the series isn't a bad thing because the rest of those games you mentioned were complete success. So, I mean, I know Assassin's Creed has kind of fallen off. I mean, when you make 15 of the same game, just newer,
right?
You're gonna have that issue, but
people still play it though.
It's true. That is very true.
Well, I enjoy Assassin's Creed. I don't play too often, but I enjoy it.
I'm excited for Breath of the Wild 2. That's probably my biggest hype of a game.
Yeah. So yeah, Breath of the Wild 2. So we did talk about this last podcast as well. We just briefly spoke on whether or not there was actually going to be a Breath of the Wild 2 or if it was just
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah. So yeah, I am so looking forward. I mean, like I said, I unfortunately haven't even played much of the other one.
I just hope I can get a Nintendo Switch so I can play it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was
I've
kind
heard
of
they're hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
yes.
everyone wants one.
But I was kind of confused whether or not you've played any.
Oh, me playing Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
I mean, I have played it a little bit, but I only played it whenever you actually let me borrow your Nintendo Switch that one day.
Oh,
And I think I played. Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
yeah, I do remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I only ended up playing it for 3 hours, maybe 3 hours sounds about right. But I definitely got the some experience out of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely did not experience the whole game in any way, because my brother actually had the game and he's played it like twice and he's told me a bunch of stuff that I didn't even touch when I played that game. So obviously, when it comes to experience on it, I don't have that much, but from what I've played, it was amazing.
I'm gonna say, given how open world it is, you can spend 3 hours and not even touch the first dungeon. Like the game
Mm.
is so explorable and open world to a level that I don't even think other open world games have really mastered. I mean, you can go anywhere right off the bat. It's just like, hey, I mean, once you finish the first little plateau area and that unlocks the rest of the map, the world is your oyster. Sure, they tell
Mm.
you should probably go this way, but you can go and see whatever you want with no rules. So that it's open world to a whole new level, in my opinion. But I think that you may have only spent 3 hours, but that's you're still getting the concept of it, definitely.
But yeah, I agree. I think once you get the thing that you float down with, was that your shield? I don't even know what it was. You get your coat or whatever you float down with. I think that makes the game
Your
so much.
like
Yeah, your
sail.
parachute.
Parachute.
Your
Okay,
sail.
yeah. There's so many
It's like
things in
a
that game. That's what
claw.
makes Zelda so good. Which we'll touch on a future episode though, more about Zelda.
Yeah.
But that's
Hopefully
one
next
cool
episode
thing.
we'll
Yeah.
dive.
So the other ones that I've seen that might be big anticipated games, and you guys can add to this list, I found were The Last of Us Part 2. I never played the first one. Ghost of Tsushima and Watchdog Legion and Dying Light 2, which I am 100% looking forward to Dying Light 2, but I've been looking forward to that game for like 7 years. So
I'm looking forward to Dying Light 2. I don't know that much about Watch Dogs Legion, but I'm not going to hype it because of obvious reasons that we just talked about.
yeah,
And I definitely think that what was the first one you said? Chad?
that would be Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima.
So I'm unfamiliar with Ghost of Tsushima, but I know that Last of Us 2, like I've seen gameplay of Last of Us. I've like seen the story, I know it. I never had a PlayStation during that time, so I never played it all the way through myself, but I watched people play it and it's a very good game and it's definitely something to be excited for, but
Yeah.
it's a sequel and I am actually very worried that people will overhype it because of how great The Last of Us was, and it's not going to be what people want it to be.
I kind of agree with you on that. And I wanted to correct myself. Dead Island 2 is the
Okay,
one.
Dead Island.
That's the one I've been waiting for 7 years. I've been waiting for Dying
Gotcha.
Light only a few years. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
Dead Island does not have any release date yet for number 2. It's just been in the works for years. But Dying Light 2 does have a release date, and I believe it's sometime this year. So,
Personal opinion, Dead Island 2, I personally never really liked that game, only because just the gameplay, like it rubbed off wrong on me, and I don't know why. And I just didn't like the game. Dying Light, I don't know, it has that verticality to it, and so I'm extremely excited for 2, especially with like the new mechanics I've seen them put into the game, where like every decision affects the map, and it's way more open now.
yeah.
And so I'm extremely excited for that one for sure. Like that's on my list of games I must play.
I th-
Um,
I think they did an amazing job implementing parkour into a zombie thriller slash horror survival.
Agreed.
I think
Well,
that's
yeah, I mean, who doesn't like zombies?
well, yeah, that's true too. But I think that's where they take the cake. Whereas Dead Island, it was kind of it was great in the beginning. I think it took a lot from Left 4 Dead series, but more of a open world type of game with quests, of course. But I enjoyed Dead Island myself, but the anticipation for Dead Island 2 has been so long coming that I'm not even, with Dying Light being the game that it is, and its second part coming out around the same time, I think, because it shows right here, initial release date for Dead Island 2 is December 2020. So, and I believe Dying Light is around the same time. And that's going to really stink for them, because if that's true, they're going to get their butt kicked on sales.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Now,
what's interesting is the connection between the two games, because I'm reading here online that it says that Dying Light was originally a Dead Island sequel.
really?
Yeah, that's what reports said, but members from Techland later confirmed that it was an original title from the beginning. So they were, but I'm pretty sure it's made by the same company. So there's definitely some questions of like influence, and did they draw from one another? I mean, they're both zombie games, so you'd think there'd be some crossover there.
Yeah, and I just looked it up for the release date, because I know the last time we checked on this, it was sometime this year, which was, I believe, spring 2020. Right now, Dying Light 2 has been delayed indefinitely.
Oh.
So
That could be bad.
Yeah. His original scheduled release date was spring 2020.
Dang. Well, and an indefinite if its original release date was spring 2020 and then they delayed it indefinitely, that could be because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Ghost of Tsushima, though, I didn't see too much on it other than the fact that I heard it was a RPG based in the era of the samurai, and how I can't remember too much about it other than it was about like a ronin, someone who like failed their master, or not failed necessarily, or but like portrayed their master, and in seek of like revenge. And basically that's what the game is about, is this samurai that I believe you will become in your story, and seeking revenge on who knows.
Oh, I gotcha.
I used to be into those games way back in the day. Dead to Rights was kind of like, but I don't know. I haven't played any of those newer samurai
Neither
games,
have I.
but I know this one is super hyped. Everybody is so hyped to play it, so sure it'll be a big stream game, kind of like the Final Fantasy VII remake was. So yeah, that was some pretty good games. I'm definitely looking forward to quite a bit of those. So for me, the most the most anticipated game for me for sure is Breath of the Wild 2. So what about you guys? What are you guys looking forward to the most out of that small list of games?
Breath of the Wild 2, I'm looking forward to getting into No Man's Sky this week, but I think Breath of the Wild 2 tops my list. And CyberPunk, that's up there.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Mr. Patty?
Well, I'll admit I might have said, overhyping it is bad with Cyberpunk 77, but with all the pushbacks they've had and all the time they've had, I think it's going to come out to be amazing, and that's most likely what I'm most excited for sure.
I think next podcast, I was hoping we would kind of go in depth more on the Legend of Zelda franchise, and go into. I don't know too much about the smaller games on the handhelds, but for as like Nintendo 64, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and of course the Switch and Wii and Wii U games, I know a lot more about. But when it comes to the 3DS games, I know absolutely nothing because I don't have any of those. But
yeah, we can cover the major titles.
Yeah,
love to jump into something about
Absolutely.
good feel on that next week, possibly. So here if you guys reached the end of this podcast, we thank you guys so much for hanging out and coming out and watching our podcast, whether you guys are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and more podcasts locations to come. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hit that like button if you're over on YouTube, and comment down in the comments more that you guys would like to see, or if you guys have any additional things you want to add on to this episode about any of the games that we talked about. Make sure you guys check out our Facebook page. It is The Gaming Station Podcast. Our Twitter will be coming up, The Gaming Station Podcast as well. Merch coming soon. We looked into some merch places. Going to be looking into better merch places that have more options. So if it's not something I would wear, I'm not going to sell it to you guys to wear. So if I don't want to wear it, I'm not going to have you guys buy it and not want to wear it too. So we're cutting out one of the ones that we were looking at. So stay tuned to that. It will be in the description. The same with all of the links to all of the locations to find the podcast or anything to do with my Chadimus Productions, streaming, etc., etc. Thank you guys again so much for sticking around with us. We appreciate you. That is it from us over here at The Gaming Station, guys.
Signing
off.